Welcome everyone to the first edition of Sound and Sophia Cigar Sessions. On this show, I will be discussing more contemporary issues in contrast with the other episodes that I'm putting out on this channel. And of course, since it's the Cigar Sessions, gotta have a cigar as well. So here I got one. It's Buffalo 10. So let's crack open this one, shall we? I think we're good, everybody. All right, of course, we gotta have some whiskey as well. So here I got an Aberlour, 12 years. Best sound in the world. Cheers, everybody. All right, everybody. Before we move on, I would like to give you guys an update of what's going on the channel. So right now, I'm reading up on Descartes, and I'm on this book at the moment. It is a biography written by Desmond Clark on René Descartes. It's a lovely book. I really do enjoy it, since he's not only describing what went on in his life, but also what went on in Europe during his time. So it's a lovely book. But all right, let's get on to the subject at hand. There is one thing that has been bugging me during the last year or so, and especially the last month, and it is the issue of AI, artificial intelligence. I'm not a real expert on the subject, so I decided to have a discussion with my brother the other day. He's not an expert either, but he sure knows more than me. So I'm gonna cut over to that discussion I had with him. And before that, I wanna apologize, since the image quality didn't turn out that great, but I still wanna share it with you guys, so here it goes. First of all, I would like to welcome you. You are the very first guest here on the Sound and Sophia show. First, for all you viewers out there, this is my brother. Would you like to introduce yourself a little bit?
Well, hello everyone. I'm Gustaf Waldemarson, industrial computer graphics researcher. Well, an industrial PhD student, rather.
So, today's subject is gonna be AI. I mean, you and I have been discussing AI for quite some time now. When was the first time you had the experience of AI? When was the first time you tried it out?
Well, it really depends on what you define as AI, and that's kind of the problem. These days, any company that has an algorithm running in some sense that you don't have access to or can look into is called AI.
Really? So there's really no clear definition of what AI is?
Unfortunately today? Not. However, what most people today call AI, or what the researcher community usually call AI, is what is more commonly known as deep learning. And that's probably what you're referring to, and that is only something that I've been touching for the last year or two, maybe.
So could you just, from your perspective, could you just explain how the deep learning thing works on broader terms? Because I think that's what most people are thinking about today, like Dall.E 2 and Mid-Journey, the whole artistic AI.
I will not be able to make justice to the algorithms that they do to generate these kind of images. However, the basic principles from which these neural networks or deep learning algorithms all stem from is really quite simple in essence. Essentially is you imagine that you have some kind of node, basically just something where you can have a bunch of numbers or values go into, and then you associate each of these numbers with a weight. So basically, you have a number that comes in, there's a weight associated to it. Basically, that just means that you multiply with that weight. And then you have multiple of these weights and multiple of these values. So that is basically just a bunch of multiplications happening in parallel. And then all of those are added together. And as a last step, you just run some special function on that. And that special function can be anything that is nonlinear. The most classical thing that one does is one multiplies, or not multiplies, but transforms it with a function known as the ReLU, the rectified linear unit, which is essentially just, if you imagine the graph of it, it's basically just a flat line until it reaches point 0, and then it's linear.
Okay.
And that is a function that is nonlinear. And by doing that, you have a nonlinear function. And by doing those things, you multiply all of these values with the weights, you sum them all together, and run it through that function. And then you spit out that value. And then that is essentially the smallest basic block of the deep learning algorithms. But what you do then is that is just one step. What you do is you chain them together in a long sequence.
So it's many algorithms.
Many algorithms. But many algorithms is probably the wrong word for it, because it's basically the same algorithm applied many times. So basically you can have one node in one layer. Basically you have a bunch of values coming into a single node, but then you can have in the same layer a second node with a bunch of values coming in again to that one. And all of these nodes in a single layer feed into the next one. And then you can keep chaining them together, and eventually you have a deep neural network, as they call it.
Network. I mean, you say neural. I mean, the minute I hear neural, I mean, it's definitely comes from the brain, right? I mean, when you use that word, I mean, how, in your own words, how would you say an AI differs from a human brain?
Significantly. I mean, to this date, we still don't know how the human brain works. There is lots of research on it, and we have been working on it for many decades, and there's still no consensus for how the brain actually works. And the main difference is we know how the deep neural network algorithms work.
Yeah.
We know
we've created it.
We have created it. It's just an algorithm that we can apply. The difficult thing is, of course, how do you set each of these values and weights that I mentioned earlier? Because that's the magic sauce, in a sense. Basically, we don't know what the weights are, but we have algorithms to sort of like, given a bunch of test data, we can guess what we should set these values to.
There was a lot of math in your description of how the AI works, but could you just explain, when does the AI know it failed a task?
It doesn't.
It doesn't, right? Because we have to tell it failed.
Yes. It's up to us to, in the so-called training phase, which is the phase of setting these weights, to basically tell them, oh, in this case, you did wrong.
Yeah.
So hence, change some of these weights to something different to make sure that that would be the correct result instead.
Be the correct, yeah. It's just interesting how sometimes the AI can fail at such a basic level sometimes. Only like I saw someone with just hands being almost impossible for an AI to figure out how just hands looks like.
I guess you're referring to these new image generator AIs being unable to properly generate images of anatomically correct hands. And basically these images, or these, what would you call them, networks, have been trained on basically just images. They have no actual understanding of what the human body actually is, what a hand actually looks like, and what it's actually contains in it, so to speak.
Yeah.
So it just have this huge, massively huge corpus of images that it basically have stored in weights inside of its network.
So the images are the weights that you, in a way.
In a way,
Okay.
yes. You could think of it like that. Practically speaking, it's just values to each of these nodes. But yes, you could see it as kind of an image.
Interesting. Do you see, I mean, in the way I look at it in the industry, I mean, in the art industry and movies and etc., jobs have only increased, right? But now, I mean, with AI, we're only seeing the first iterations of AI right now, right? I mean,
Depends on how you define it again. I mean, AI, as we have been calling it, has existed for decades. It's really has existed almost since the 60s.
all right.
But so calling this the first iteration is really being very disingenuous to a lot of historical research.
I understand.
But
But I mean, in this kind of pursuit,
scale is probably different.
I mean, making images just out of simple texts. I mean, what do you think? I mean, how will this affect the industry? Will jobs increase as it have done for the last? I mean, since always, really, in the film industry and arts.
Yeah.
Or will we actually see a decline in jobs when it comes to, I mean, especially film or any art or music for that matter?
For the time being, I still think we will see a net increase in the number of jobs. And similar to before, we probably will remove the lowest tier of...
like rotoscoping.
Possibly. Those kinds of job will probably be phased out in favor of some simple AI-based algorithms, so to speak. However, as in the same cases, we will typically increase the ceiling instead. So basically, we will increase the proficiency of each individual employee, or whatever you would call it.
Like the same reason we don't have people who delivered ice before the refrigerator. I mean, but do you think so? Do you think we will get to that point where all of a sudden, well, we don't need? I mean, AI can create what people want and what they need. So
possibly, but not within the creative space in a sense.
Think so?
I don't think so, because I think there will always be kind of a demand for this is man-made versus this is just background art in a sense. That's going to be a difference. But for instance, we probably really quickly want to remove the transport industry in a sense. If we could, we probably would replace every single lorry driver. If we just could do that. We're still not there, and we'll probably have a long way to go. But that is probably one of the more common places where AI could replace people.
Well, my worry is, what are we gonna do with all the lorry drivers? But that's
a separate topic.
That's a separate topic, and I will touch upon that, but later on. One thing that bothers me, like you said, that there's gonna be a crave for real art, or at least AI, non-AI art. At least I believe so. And do you think won't it be like that? There probably will be AIs being able to analyze if a piece of art has been done by an AI. Do you know what I mean?
Well, kind of. The problem is if you had that kind of thing, then you could train an AI to identify, as you said, if it is fake. But then you could just have a separate AI just use that input. Oh, this AI said that it was fake, so you just take that image, change it slightly, and then test it again. And then you just loop that until it no longer recognizes it.
So that wouldn't really work, would it?
It just becomes an arms race.
Because I remember a while ago when they were talking about deepfakes. They said, at least, and maybe that's not correct then, that the good thing about the deepfake is that when the deepfakes get better and better, also the being able to analyze that it is a deep fakes is at the same level always at the, but maybe that's wrong then. It just
I
becomes
don't
the same, like you said, an arms race.
It is becomes a kind of arms race because, as I said before, it's just if it detects it as being fake and you know that it is fake, then just use that image as an input to try to change it again.
Yeah.
And that will always be the case for these kind of things.
Very interesting. I mean, the whole deep fake, I mean, that's...
The main solution currently, at least, is to try to just add a time component. Because most AI algorithms are very temporally unstable.
Because of it, what do you mean? Because of electricity? No.
No. I mean, if you have one image and then you just want to see it change over time, for instance, just as we move in a frame here, an AI cannot really generate images sequentially in that sense that look natural to us, at least not yet.
Oh, so it cannot generate a moving picture, is that what you said?
Yes.
I mean, we're far from it at least.
Pretty far from it right now.
Yeah.
They might solve it in 5 to 10 years, but that's one simple solution currently.
One prediction that I've heard of, and I would like to get your opinion on it, is that, like you said, if in 5 to 10 years they might be able to solve it, that it can basically just create a movie. So, I mean, would it be impossible to think that, I mean, let's just say in 5 or 10 years that you're going on Netflix and you just think all the movie sucks, but instead they have a prompt. You can just write, I want a new Lord of the Rings series from the perspective of Gollum. Generate that for me, please. And it will probably be able to do that, right?
Well, it might be. That's so far ahead of what we are able to do today that I very much doubt we will get there anytime soon. But
it doesn't seem impossible.
It doesn't seem impossible what we have currently, but we are touching upon the energy requirement again. In order to train something that can feasibly do something like that, would be probably orders of magnitude more than we have used currently.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a little bit scary. I mean, and also connect that with Elon Musk's neural network. I mean, Neuralink. That's even more scarier. But there was another question that I was thinking about. Well, I mean, one thing also that when we were talking about people wanting, because I realized one thing when I was just scrolling on Instagram, and I saw a just beautiful art piece, and I was like, oh, this is amazing, this is really cool. And then I checked the hashtags, and it was all AI created, and also the guy, all his whatever he posted was AI generated. And it was, I mean, all of the pieces were really cool and they were good. I think it was Mid-Journey. But at that moment, when I realized it was AI, I mean, I stopped following him because I was like, I mean, can you really call that guy an artist just writing prompts? Would you call him an artist?
Depends.
I mean, yeah, he comes up with the idea, which is, in a sense, the artistic face. I mean, that's what the AI can't do at the moment.
Kind of.
But yeah.
But that is kind of like, that is sort of like moving the what is a job kind of thing. For instance, we will no longer have these environment artists. We'll probably have a new job. We'll probably call it prompt creator or something like that instead.
Sounds reasonable, yeah. But one thing that I was thinking about, I think a new job, just speculating, would be actually just an authenticity maker in a way, because when you're doing writing down a prompt, like the image I showed before, I was still typing down in the style of Monet, which I mean, it created a beautiful image, but I still had to write the style that I wanted. And that's, I mean, so I think artists in the future that are not just writing prompts will be obsessed about authenticity. Do you know what I mean? Because I mean, the AI can't create a new style yet.
As far as we know, no, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Do you have any comments on that, or do you think? I mean, do you think it will? Would you think you will just be able to type in, create an authentic piece?
No, it will not be able to do that.
No.
The way, as I alluded to earlier, with the whole weights thing, that is trained on something that already exists.
Yeah.
So it can't really create something that doesn't exist, that it haven't possibly even seen before. At most, it can take a lot of what it has seen, try to combine them in a possibly novel way, and then you might have something that's authentically new.
Yeah.
But that's what you will get at most.
Yeah. So my tips to you artists out there: be authentic, because just copying other people just won't do. I mean, really, yeah. But I mean, I think that's good. I think we're done here. So thank you, Gustaf, for being on the show, and I'll see you back there.
So there you have it, folks. A pretty nerve-wracking subject, don't you think? Well, I'm just gonna put up some images here. All of these images were created by Dall.E 2, an AI that you can find online. And they are pretty darn flawless. I mean, yeah, they can get better, but like I said before, this is just the beginning. This is only the second iteration of Dall.E. So just imagine what will happen in the future. So that is the question that has been bugging me. Where will the advancement of AI end? And I'm just speculating here, but I do believe that the AI will usher in a new age of hedonism, or as the philosopher Søren Kierkegaard would have put it, a new age of the aesthetic sphere. I covered the aesthetic sphere about a year ago, so you can check that video out if you'd like. But the gist of it is that the aesthetic should be seen in its classical Greek meaning, which means our bodily senses. So a person who lives in the aesthetic sphere is a person that only tries to maximize sensual pleasure in the instantaneous moment. And that's really what we're talking about here. Like I said before, if you couple an AI with Neuralink will probably be able to analyze your mind at any moment and tell the AI what kind of image or movie or music that you would like to see or hear at that very moment to satisfy all your instantaneous needs. And that really brings to mind, if you've seen the movie Wall-E, the Disney movie, it takes place in the 29th century. And the realistic part about that movie is how humans were depicted. Basically, they looks just like big blobs sitting in a wheelchair, watching a continuous feed on a screen in front of them. And that's really what we're looking at here. Why would you ever get up out of your wheelchair if the AI can satisfy all your instant needs? This is just such scary stuff. And now, I mean, we're only discussing music and arts. Think what impact the AI will have on the porn industry. Instead of going online searching for a clip, they'll probably just have a prompt, so you can just type in whatever. You'll be able to watch whoever do whatever with whoever, wherever. And the scary thing about that, I mean, why would you get a girlfriend if an AI can satisfy at least your visual needs. It's really hard for me not to be dystopic about the future. But hey, I'll try to end on a merrier note, because I've realized a couple of things while contemplating this subject, is that I do believe that people still gonna crave for non-AI generated arts in the future. And a proof of that is we have Spotify today. Anyone can just start their favorite song whenever they want and listen to it. But me, as a musician, I am not unemployed. People still pay me lots of money to hear me play a song that they maybe don't even like, but they want to hear something live played for them. And I think this will probably get into the arts industry as well. Instead of people posting their art online, they will videotape themselves while they create the art in real time, just to get just proof telling the audience that this is an authentic piece painted in real time. So the whole creative process becomes part of the art itself. So there still is hope. And also another thing that I realized, if you've ever watched the series Westworld on HBO, if you haven't, doesn't matter. It's just a bunch of realistic human-looking robots fighting real people. Yada yada. But one thing that I realized when I was watching it, whenever one of these robots died, so to say, I didn't have much feelings for them. It was very different when one of the human characters died. And because it made me realize that when something is created by us, we tend not to have the same feeling towards it, because if it gets destroyed, we can just create it again. But it's not the same thing with humans. If a human dies, we know that that loss is eternal. That also brings to mind that is actually an argument against God, if he exists, caring about us. Because if we would perish tomorrow, why should he care, really? I mean, he could just create us again the next day. Oh well, that's a completely different topic. I think we'll actually leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching. I think I should rate this cigar, shouldn't I? It was a pretty good one. It was missing a couple of things, but I'll give it 3 out of 5 cigars. But the whiskey, though, yeah, that's a good one. 4 out of 5. So, yeah, that's the end, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. There's a lot of things coming up, so if it sounds interesting at all, just make sure to subscribe and hit that like button. And I'll catch you, everybody, in the next one. Take care.